Feel free to wander over. Okay. There's my glasses. Okay. Should I start?
You can.
Okay. Hey, everybody. Please, really, maybe, would you mind dishing up salads? Or maybe one of the students can help you? Just so they'll have some. Okay. Hi, everybody. Happy April. Happy spring. Happy Earth Month. One of my favorites. Usually, actually, my talk during April is usually on Earth Month, but we decided to go with the gut microbiome this time and the power of diversity. How is everyone's Easter? Good? Ordinary, okay. Well, I hope you like this salad that I brought because it's what I made on Easter too. And I hope you like it. And it calls for watermelon radishes. That's why I wanted to make it, because they're so pretty. So it's like white or green on the outside, but when you cut it open, it kind of has watermelon colors. Sometimes they're pink all the way through. But this time, this one I opened, and I don't know if you know what they're going to look like until you cut them open. But they have a super mild radish flavor. Super mild. Okay, so we're talking about the power of diversity, and the diversity I'm talking about here is plant diversity, because we want to eat more plants for our gut. So how many plant foods do you think you eat in a day? In a day. And plant foods, I'm talking not just vegetables and fruits, but also oats, because you know those are a plant food, or wheat or other things. Spices can count in here too. So think about it, because a lot of times we eat the same thing day in and day out, which is okay. But here might be a typical day for me sometimes. So you have oatmeal, there's one. Put some berries on that, or sometimes I put the raisins or craisins. Maybe a few nuts, put some flaxseed in, another plant food. Put some cinnamon on that, so your spices count too. And then maybe for lunch, have a salad, not unlike what we have here today, that's got fruits, a number of fruits and vegetables, plus maybe some beans or tofu, and then maybe some nuts or seeds. And then dinner maybe is tofu or another kind of plant protein with a bunch of veggies. So, or maybe you grill veggies and you throw them into a salad, and then maybe you have a grain with that, like quinoa or something. And then of course we got to have a little dessert. So maybe we make ourselves some nice cream, which is blending up bananas. And to make it like Cherry Garcia, one of my favorite flavors, you add some cherries to that, and maybe even some dark chocolate chips. So that's about 30 plant foods. So I really encourage you to think about how many you eat. The recommendation we're going to find out is at least 30 through the week, because this might seem like a lot, especially if we're starting from zero, you know, we want to work our way up. I know you guys are already eating a lot of plant foods, but we want plants because they have good fiber that help our gut. Now, anybody here not heard about the gut lately? I mean, they talk about it all the time, right? How important our gut is. Our gut has a direct line by the vagus nerve up to our brain. So they kind of act alike, which has been like shocking news for a lot of us. So we need both. So if we're eating plants and we're being diverse about it, are like 30 a week, they're high in fiber. That's perfect food for our gut microbiome, which are the little bugs, the bacteria that are in our gut. Plant foods generally low in calories, although some aren't, because you might say, well, I know nuts aren't, and you'd be right. I know avocado isn't, you're right, but generally they're low calorie. They have lots of those antioxidants, those big disease fighters. They're nutrient dense, meaning that they have more nutrients than they have calories. So they're very low calorie per bite for most of them, not all. And they're full of those phytochemicals, which are, phyto is another word for plant. So plant nutrients, plant chemicals that they help the plant, but they also help us. And they help protect our cells and our DNA. They help fight cancer. They help fight heart disease. And the fiber in plants also increase the diversity or all the different types of bacteria that are in our gut. So looking at the good things that plants do, if we heard about that book that's out lately that tells you that plants are really bad and they kill you, we could just throw that book right away because it's ridiculous. There's overwhelming evidence of how good plants are. And this person just picked up something and ran with it and is now selling a book and scaring the heck out of everybody. It's poorly referenced. There's lots of leaps in ideas in that book. I don't even know what the book is. I don't want to even give it the time of day. Yes.
I watch maybe too much cable TV, but I've been seeing advertisements about that balance of nature, those tablets. It says that we don't need enough plants, and so it has the veggies and the fruit. And I'm sure they're expensive because I don't know, I guess we eat them much, but I think it's called balance of nature. And they pushing the tablets to get our.
Right. So Paul's asking about what we're seeing advertised a lot are things. There used to be a company called something else, and they were like little fruit and vegetable gummies. And now this one called Balance of Nature, maybe. They're telling us that we don't get enough fruits and vegetables. And you were right. In the typical American diet, which is not ours, but in the typical American diet, people don't. And so they say here, if you take these pills or these gummies or these supplements, that you will get a certain amount of fruits and vegetables in a day. You'll get concentrated nutrients, vitamins, probably true, but you miss out on the value of all the things plants do for us, so I don't think those are going to be high in fiber. So we're missing out on the fiber that's good for our gut health, that's good to help lower our cholesterol, that's good to help us feel full so we don't eat as much. You're missing out on the chewing effect that we get when we eat plant foods. That slows us down so that our gut can digest all of our food in a decent manner. So you miss out on a lot of things if we take it in a pill form. So I wouldn't waste my money personally, especially if you are eating a plant-based diet. And I know not everybody's eating a whole food all the way plant-based diet, but if you're trying to concentrate on more fruits and vegetables, you're going to be doing just fine. And today we're going to talk about trying to aim for 30 in a week, 30 fruits and vegetables, different ones in a week. And if you think you're also including your grains and your oats in the morning and your cinnamon and your turmeric you put on this or that, we're going to be getting plenty. But it's true, the typical American diet where it's fast food and you have an Egg McMuffin for breakfast and then a burger for lunch and a pizza for dinner, then we're not getting enough. And I'm really curious with this whole new thing that now fast food workers are going to get $20 an hour, that all those foods are going to go up in price. I wonder if people will still get so much of fast foods. They will complain a lot. You're right. They will. Okay, so the gut microbiome, because I use that a lot in these slides, I'm just abbreviating it, GMB, gut microbiome. So our gut weighs about 4 to 6 pounds. So our gut would be our stomach, our intestines, our small and large intestines. What? Yeah. Yes. Yes. So our GMB has a bunch of microorganisms or bacteria that help us to live. So our gut has about 40 trillion of these microbiome. And if you think about all the cells and the rest of the body, human cells, we have about 30 trillion. So our gut is loaded with all this bacteria. Healthy adults humans have more than 1,000 different types of bacteria or different strains. And we'll say a bunch of big words, and you don't have to really know those, but to know that we want to have a lot of bacteria, and there's good and bad bacteria. So this diversity or the different types of bacteria we have in our gut, it changes with different people. It could be hereditary, it could be environmental, it could be birth method, meaning were you born cesarean or vaginal birth. It could do with infant feeding where you fed formula or where you fed breast milk. Antibiotic use, because that kills bugs. That's its whole job, are antibiotics, but it kills the good and the bad. What? Yes, it just kills, which is good. I mean, that saves lives a lot of times, but that's why we're trying not to overdo antibiotics. And if you've ever been to the doctor recently and you think, oh, I'm so sick, give me something, and they still won't, they're not just giving it away anymore because it kills all the bacteria. But diet plays a big part. And of course, that's what we're going to talk about today, is the way we can change up our diet to have lots of good, healthy bacteria. And it changes too, just naturally, day to day, our gut bacteria can change up a little bit, depending on all these other factors. So this is just a little picture to show you. I remember I said there are going to be lots of big names. So the name of the bacteria is on the right hand, pink, and then what part of the gut they're in. So the duodenum is the first part of your intestine, and then it goes into the jejunum and the ileum, which is getting to the final part, and then the colon, which is where everything kind of sits and waits. So this just tells the jobs and what we're absorbing or digesting. And the colon is one of the most densely populated bacterial communities on Earth. And we got it right inside our own body. So how the gut microbiome affects us is when we eat foods that have fiber in them, like plant foods, our gut breaks it down and creates these things called short chain fatty acids. Butyrate is a name you'll hear a lot if you ever read about this. And these help the lining of our colon, because the way our colon works is it's supposed to keep everything in the colon in and not let anything escape. And so these short chain fatty acids help keep those, and they call little tight junctions, the thing that keep the cells together. And so when we have a diet that maybe isn't so good, or we're not eating very much fiber and we don't have all these short chain fatty acids, sometimes our gut gets a little leaky. Those short chain, I'm not sorry, those little tight junctions aren't so tight anymore. So things leak out. Our bacteria in our gut help protect the pathogens. Pathogens are the bad things that aren't good for us. We got good ones, the good bacteria that helps keep the bad bacteria at bay. We have both. So we need good ones. It's like a little check and balance to make sure the bad ones don't get crazy and take over. And it tells our immune system what's good. So also, people say, I can't believe my gut and what I eat affects my immune system, but it does. That comes from our gut. So we want to eat a good, healthy diet so we have a lot of good microbiomes, and we don't want those bad ones to take over.
So what happens if you have a leaky gut?
Oh, well, just hold that thought. We'll talk about a leaky gut in a minute. It's not a good thing. No, no, no. Another thing that the bacteria in our gut do is they help get rid of these things called xenobiotics. And those are chemicals that aren't naturally found in our body. And they're a lot of times from pollutants like pesticides or herbicides or things they put even on our fruits and vegetables. So it helps, the bacteria in the gut can help fight those. It preserves our gut lining, like we mentioned, so we don't have a leaky gut. And also, you know what these bacteria do? They help make B vitamins and K vitamins too. And they help us absorb calcium and iron. So these bacteria are really important. And we want to take really good care of them and try to have a lot of them. Now, has anybody heard probiotic or prebiotic? Have you heard those words?
Yeah.
Okay, you'll hear them all the time. And now there's a new one we'll learn, postbiotic. But a probiotic are foods that we eat that actually have bacteria in them. And we want to eat them with live bacteria, because if we're eating dead bacteria, it's not doing us any good. So we'll find those in fermented foods like sauerkraut, or miso is a good one, soy sauce even, tempeh, which is fermented soybean. You'll find them in yogurts, or kefir, which is almost like a liquid yogurt, or kombucha, which is that tea that's kind of fermented that you find it at every farmer's market. Oh, it's such a big deal. So those are probiotics. It's like eating the bacteria. So we love fermented foods. I wish I loved fermented foods more, because I don't. One thing to say, in case I forget to say it later, on that miso. Does anybody here use miso? See, I like that miso. You want to throw it in at the end of your cooking, because otherwise you kind of kill the bacteria in it while it's cooking. Prebiotics now are foods that feed the gut bacteria. They're the foods, and basically they're high fiber foods. There's some specific ones they always call out, and I think I'll have a list of them. But really, any foods that are high in fiber are going to be a prebiotic. Another one that you might see on packages or hear people talk about is inulin, which is something that they add. It's a prebiotic that they add to foods, or resistant starch. You'll hear resistant starch a lot, especially for people with diabetes. It is the type of starch that is tougher to break down, hence the name resistant. And so our blood sugars don't rise as much.
So what are some foods that are resistant?
Well, that's such a good question. I think I do have a slide on that too. I think we'll have, that's okay. So now what they're calling now, they say, is postbiotics. So if you have prebiotics and you also have probiotics, then now they call that postbiotics. It's kind of what's created from that. So we'll make lots of good bugs from our prebiotics feeding our probiotics. And so now you'll hear postbiotics. And these bugs, these microbes, work on what we eat, and they transform the foods into something that's super healthy for us. That is why they say, you know, our typical American diet, we don't really get enough fruits and vegetables, because we don't. We're not getting any of this stuff. You're not finding it in pizza and egg McMuffins. It's got to be plant foods. So things that are created from your pre and postbiotics, they call the postbiotics. Now, unhealthy foods. What's an unhealthy food? Processed foods, fast foods. Yeah, those are not going to be good for us. What those do is they feed our unhealthy microbes. So, and those unhealthy ones in our gut cause inflammation. And we all know inflammation is a risk for a chronic disease. So we don't want to be eating lots of unhealthy food to feed the unhealthy microbes. We want to eat food to get more good microbes in our gut. Now, what you'll hear too sometimes, I told you it's going to be a lot of big words today, or it's called dysbiosis. Dysbiosis is when your bacteria get out of whack in your gut. Maybe the bad outweigh the good. So, and when we get have an imbalance of that bacteria, the bad take over because we don't have enough fiber, so we're not feeding the good stuff. Antibiotics, like we said, kills everything. They're indiscriminate, so they kill good and bad bacteria. Dysbiosis can contribute to inflammation, which then contributes to insulin resistance for people with pre-diabetes or diabetes. You know, another thing that causes dysbiosis is over sanitizing, which during COVID, we all did. I really worried about that during COVID, because I don't know about you, but I never really used hand sanitizer before, and now I won't leave the house without it. But, you know, and plus we're so clean with our kids. Remember when we were little, you'd get dirty. You didn't even take a bath shower every day. I mean, nowadays we're super clean. So children who live in environments that have dirt and animals have a much more diverse microbiome. And because of that, they have fewer allergies, less autoimmune disease, and less asthma. Autoimmune disease is something where our body turns against itself and causes us to get sick. Lupus is an autoimmune disease. Type 1 diabetes is an autoimmune disease. Chronic fatigue, maybe. You know, I'm not sure, but probably. So pets in the home helped with a healthy gut microbiome. Who has pets in their home? We're between dogs right now, but I feel like I really need to get some. Okay, so your microbes and your diet. So a high fiber diet helps to increase the diversity of your gut microbiome. Well, that fiber turns into short chain fatty acids, which give us more good bacteria in our gut. On the other hand, a high protein or high fat diet contribute to lower, and here's another big word, and I don't even know how to say it. I always say bacteroides, but I hear people say different things. Those seem to be the good ones, and firmicutes seem to be the bad. It's probably not how you say it, but that's how I say it. So these firmicutes are associated with more obesity and the metabolic syndrome, which is a set of risk factors that contribute to heart disease. So it's not that either one is particularly bad. It's just when they get out of whack, we get into trouble. We need to have a good balance of them. So a high protein, high fat diet also contributes to less diversity in our gut because that protein really isn't making good bacteria. And it reduces those short chain fatty acids like the butyrate, because that helps with keeping our gut lining stable. Now, animal foods, I know it seems like I'm kind of down on animal foods like I always am, but this is just what the science tells us, that animal foods promote bad bacteria and can create toxins. So the more bad than good bacteria, here's our leaky gut. Damage to those little tight junctions in the colon wall, and we get leaky gut. And then what happens when those get out? So those things get out, so they call them endotoxins. They get into our bloodstream, and it starts a little fire or inflammation throughout our body. That's what happens when we get a leaky gut. Also, sometimes you'll hear about people who have SIBO, SIBO. Who can tell me what that stands for, since my mind is escaping me at the moment? SIBO. Small intestine bacterial overgrowth. There it is. I knew it was going to come. So that's when we got bad bacteria overtaking the good bacteria in our gut. And it makes you very sick. It makes you like nauseous and have diarrhea. And it makes you not feel very good and have trouble eating foods. Yes.
Does it matter? Sometimes I cheat and I go, well, it's just a little bit, I'm not really hurting, but does it matter even if it's a little bit, it's still?
So Paul's asking, you know, how much can I really get away with?
Occasionally.
If I was paraphrasing. So, you know, I don't know. I think every time we do eat something that's not good, it's not helping our gut, but I don't think we're going to turn into leaky gut overnight. So I think a little bit's going to be fine. I think it'll be fine. Especially, I think we got to balance when we're not perfect with lots of plant foods. That's what we got to do, is balance lots of plant foods. So how do you keep your gut healthy? Well, a good diet, which is, I mean, I would love to say it's a whole food plant-based diet, which it is, but it's more importantly, a diverse diet. You know how you're always reading about, oh, you got to have this superfood and acai berries and blueberries and this and that. You know, it's more about diversity. If we just ate blueberries all day, it's not going to be as good as having a variety of plant foods in your day. So diversity is what makes up a good diet. So high in fiber, more plant foods, and also trying to eat fermented foods. So those fermented foods, that was sauerkraut, the tempeh, kimchi. I don't think that was on my list, but that's a fermented food. Do you guys like any fermented foods? No, I'm not particularly fond of them either. What do you like? Sauerkraut. I wish I loved sauerkraut. You think that would help?
How about the old soggy vegetables?
Refrigerator when we clean it out.
Yeah, that's true. Those soggy vegetables in the fridge, they might have fermented a little bit, I suppose. You were right. If you haven't tried kimchi, it's actually pretty good. It's fermented vegetables. It's a Korean food that can be good. And yes. Oh, okay. So fermented cabbage. Okay, they're both fermented cabbage. They have just different spices.
One sour.
Okay. And you know, I really detest sauerkraut, but I've learned that if you get that fresh stuff at the store, like Trader Joe's sells it, or my Rayleigh sells it too, it's not as bad as sauerkraut. I can eat that. And you can make your own.
Probably.
I probably haven't had good sauerkraut. You're right. So here's just some foods. These would be your, you're asking what's a prebiotic. This is what I had here. These are specific foods they call out as prebiotics. And there's lots more. You don't have to just eat these, but they always say Jerusalem artichokes. It's got that inulin kind of fiber in it. Beans, high fiber, bananas, broccoli, that incorporates our cruciferous vegetables too. So that would be like cauliflower or Brussels sprouts. There's our blueberries, of course. Polenta, which is an interesting one. It's high in fiber, and apparently it has some fermenting going on in there. There's our miso soup, and there's tempeh, which is basically just soybeans that have been fermented, and they usually add something to it to kind of harden it. It's almost like a cake, a firm cake.
I see the blueberries on there, but right now there's a lot of blackberries and strawberries and berries with seeds in them. That sure seems like fiber to me.
That is so true. So she's saying, do we have to just eat the blueberry? And no way. We can eat all those berries. You are right. You are right. Or strawberries, even strawberries, are in season. I don't know. I live in Placer County and now all the strawberry stands are open. So every corner's got strawberries. And those little seeds you're right. They get stuck in your teeth. You're right. So how are we going to build good bacteria in our gut? Well, we're going to make meals that's surrounded by plants. If you still want to eat meat or animal foods, that's fine. Just make that small and eat lots more plant foods around it. Now, this is a number. Aim for 50 grams of fiber a day or more. Now, you don't have to go counting fiber. If you want to, you can. But basically, if we're eating whole plant foods at every meal, we're going to be pretty close to that. So eat those prebiotics, the leafy greens, edamame, or the soybeans, the younger soybeans, leeks and onions and garlic, even whole wheat counts in here, beans, oats, bananas. Eat plant foods. Pretty much that should just say, eat plant foods. Add some fermented foods if you can. Tempeh, kimchi, there's our sauerkraut, our miso. And miso is so good to add to different things. It adds such a nice flavor. Sourdough is good. Who here makes their own sourdough? Who has a starter? Anybody? Because I need some. You are? Oh, good for you. Okay, I'm going to start one. And I tried it in the winter, but it must have been too cold because it didn't grow. So good. Good. And I just got a recipe from somebody for sourdough English muffins. And they were really good because I just discovered that the whole wheat English muffins that I've been eating forever have milk in them. Who knew? I must never have looked or they changed it. I don't know. So I'm going to if I make some, I'll share the recipe with you. Okay. Avoid red meats, high fat dairy, fried foods. Those are all things that feed your bad gut bacteria, not your good ones. And limit the saturated fat too. What are sources of saturated fat?
Coconut oil.
Coconut oil, definitely. Palm oil. Lard, good one. Cheese, whole dairy products, meat, usually very high in saturated fat. So we want to watch out for those. Yes. Right. Usually on our labels, it says 7%. But I would say 10 to 15 grams would be the most I'd want to go for. Yeah. Let's see. What else are we doing? Okay.
Question.
Oh, shout it out.
How does health-wise, how does 2% milk compare with almond milk?
Well, almond milk is squished up almonds, but it doesn't have really a whole lot of almond in it. It's more water than anything. They fortify it with calcium, and so it's got calcium in it. If we're going cow milk, whole milk would be like having 2 pats of butter in non-fat. If we put 1 pat in, that would be like our 2%. But it does have nutrients in it too, but you know, they fortify it with the calcium and the vitamin A and D too, just like they do with our almond milk. So nutritionally, almond milk doesn't have a lot going on, but it gets our cereal wet for very few calories. As far as, but it does come from plant food, so it might help with our gut bacteria. I don't know.
So they're about the
Um, yeah, they can be. Yes, they can be. It's just almond milk really doesn't have a whole lot of almond in it either. But soy milk would have it going on. That would be a good comparison, is cow milk with soy milk. Soy milk's got good protein that helps lower our cholesterol. I like the soy milk too.
You think of oat milk.
I think oat milk can be great too. Oat milk, you know, they just take oats and then they soak it and then they squeeze all the liquid out of it. And so it's good. If you're buying it in a package, you got to be careful because a lot of times they add a lot of fat to it, which I don't know why they do that. But oat milk can be very good too. I think environmentally, especially since we're in Earth Month, I think oat milk is better than almond milk. Almond milk uses a lot of water in the processing. Soy is good, and I think it's fine environmentally too. It doesn't use as much. I think oat uses the least though. Yeah, and some people, don't you make your own oat milk, John?
No,
No?
soy milk.
Soy milk?
I'm trying, but I, too much work for what I get.
It is a lot of work to make your own milk, but more power to those of you who do. Do you make your own?
I don't.
So remember when I was at your class, one of the gals came up to me and she showed me this oat milk, no, a soy milk maker. And she said, oh, you had to get this. It was like the best thing ever. And it looked great. It was a quick and easy way for her to make soy milk. Yeah. Uh-huh. Okay, what about our gut microbiome and obesity? Because it seems to be linked with obesity also. So leaner people have more of those bacteroides, less of the firmicutes. That's just cute, isn't it? And actually, if you have more firmicutes, and I'm so sorry, I'm just destroying that word, but they seem to get more calories from their foods. Like the bacteria work harder at getting the calories out. Now, another thing, if you feel like, and they do this sometimes with that SIBO, those people who have the really messed up gut microbiome, based on some studies they've done on mice, so germ-free mice who don't have anything going on, they will do a fecal implant. Yes, you heard that, right? Fecal implant. And the obese mice, if the germ-free, had an increase in body fat. If they got a fecal transplant from a fat mouse. But if they have a normal weight mouse and they had a fecal transplant, they achieved normal weight. So the bacteria in our gut seem to be associated with our weight too. And then they took a look at this yo-yo obesity, you know, people who might lose some weight and then regain it, you know, you go on one of those crash diets and then you go off, that the obese gut microbiome stays unchanged after you lose weight. And if you've ever lost weight and tried to keep it off, this is one of the reasons why, because we still have more of those firmicutes. It takes like 6 months for it to stabilize. We got a lot of memory in there.
Is that why they say keep it off for a year?
Well, that's true. We are so high. Yeah. So it is so easy to regain weight. And if you lose that weight, that might not have been the hard part. Who knows how you did it, but it might not be hard. It's keeping it off. That's the hard part. And especially now you're fighting your gut microbiome. You're fighting a lot of things to keep that weight off and your bad habits that we might have had. Obese mice who got the fecal transplant from normal weight mice, it erased the memory of their fat microbiome. So, and they are doing these fecal transplants in humans, not just on mice. And they are you seeing it in the hospital? Oh, so why are people getting it?
ravaged by antibiotics.
Oh, right.
Right up there, you know what?
Okay, so Rob is confirming that is happening in the hospital, especially for people whose guts have been messed up. Yeah, okay,
They put it in your fanny?
yes.
Yeah.
Or as Rob put it, right up the you know what,
Oh, what?
right up the you know what.
Yeah.
I'm told that what I've heard is successful.
Yeah,
It's a successful procedure.
uh-huh,
Who thought it?
yeah,
Why doesn't it come out then like an animal would do?
I can't answer that. Why doesn't it just fall right out? I don't know.
want one, never mind.
It's not done just once. This is like, they have to be in the hospital for a little bit to make this a successful expert. You see what I'm saying?
Okay, so you're in the,
Just like a one and done. Hey, I can eat.
hey, so Rob is filling us in on the details. So you stay in the hospital for a while. They do it multiple times.
But those individuals are pretty sick and they don't have this microbiome.
Right. So their gut microbiome got completely whacked out.
Enough to make you eat all vegetables.
Totally, I know. They've been looking at other things with the gut microbiome too. They look at those bacteria in our gut and neurological things like Parkinson's and ALS, ALS and autism. The fecal transplants is used to treat the C. diff is like a really bad bug that you have chronic diarrhea and you can't get rid of. So a lot of times a fecal transplant will help get rid of that. Or some of these ulcerative colitis, which is a disease in your colon, or non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. That's what NAFLD is, or irritable bowel syndrome. Inflammatory bowel too. So we want to keep our guts good. Like you said, we just want to eat plants like crazy so we don't end up wanting a fecal transplant. Okay, and in diabetes, they look at that too. If we have a gut microbiome that causes more acetate is just something that our food will get broken down into from the bad bugs. It increases our insulin secretion and increases this hormone called ghrelin that makes us hungry, which is why it also is associated with obesity. So then we eat more, and so now we have more insulin resistance, and next thing you know, we have type 2 diabetes. So they're looking at keeping a good gut bacteria to help with that. And here's our high fat meals, and diabetes can have those, just like we said earlier, those bacterial toxins leak through the intestinal wall and we have leaky gut. So now we have inflammation, but also insulin resistance and high triglycerides. So this guy, Dr. Bolshewitz, Dr. B, he wrote a book called Fiber Fueled. He also wrote the cookbook to go with this. I really like this guy. I mean, I like him because he's whole food plant based, bless you. But he's kind of simple and turns this complicated stuff into something that's easy to understand. So I do love myself an acronym. So his is F goals. So this is what he's saying to have a good gut microbiome. So F is fruit and fermented foods. So we talked about that. G is eating greens and grains, and those grains would be whole grains, like intact whole grains, like if you're having oats or quinoa or barley or millet or those kind of things. O is for omega-3 super seeds, like our flax, our chia, our hemp. And then A, this is an interesting one, is for aromatics. So you know when you make a recipe, it almost always starts with garlic and onion and you cook those. So those are your aromatics. But he's saying that we need to chop them, then stop for 10 minutes, and then it activates more healthy compounds. So if you have time, it always seems like I forget, and then it's already too late. But if you have time, chop and stop. L is legumes or beans or lentils, and S is for sulforaphane and shrooms, and not another N. So sulforaphane is what we find in broccoli and cruciferous veggies. There's our cauliflower, Brussels sprouts, but broccoli sprouts have 10 to 100 times more sulforaphane, this good stuff for our gut, than even broccoli does. And it's super easy to sprout. If you haven't, you just have like a tablespoon of these little sprouts. I bought some broccoli sprouts on Amazon, and then you just keep them wet and dump it out, wet and dump it out a couple times a day for 2 or 3 days. And next thing you know, you have a whole container of sprouts. You put on your salads or whatnot, but also mushrooms. Gotta have our mushrooms. So I like the F goals. That's kind of a fun way to remember it. Totally, you're right. Very similar to G bombs. And so if we're going to try to eat right, we aim for at least 3 servings of whole grains, 1 to 2 servings of beans a day, 3 to 5 servings of veggies, and 2 to 4 servings of fruit. So how do you think about that? Think you're doing it? Think you're near it?
Close.
Close. Well, and then if you think, well, I'm a little weak in one area or another, that's a good thing to work on. We got to have something to work on. So if you want to try to eat more plant foods and healthy up your gut microbiome, first I choose a few typical days and count out all the plant foods and then build from there. Remember, 30 is our ultimate goal in a week, not in a day, in a week. I think you can easily do 30 even in a day though. So go to farmer's market, see what's in season. I mean, right now when you go to the market, you see all these things that weren't there a few weeks ago, right? So now we're having arugula and what else am I seeing? Artichokes. We got the berries, radishes. What else are you seeing in the market? Kevin, you go all the time.
Some cauliflower.
Cauliflower. Oh, leeks. Okay, that's good. Mustard greens. Ah, that's a fun one. Okay.
For country club, it's corn, but that's, it can't be from this area.
No, you're right. Asparagus. Asparagus is in now. You're right. Collard greens. Yes, they are. And you can tell by my garden that's got all these collard greens. I can't eat enough of them. I meant to bring some today and I forgot. So only have plants on your plate. Fruits, veggies, whole grains, beans, legumes, the usual. Use herbs and spices liberally. So remember that those are plant foods too. So shake those on. Could you add veggies to breakfast? I don't know. Some people do. Yeah, there we go. Have a salad at lunch and dinner. I mean, go figure. We could do that. Push those animal foods out and fill up with plant foods. And maybe add some fermented foods if you find any that you enjoy.
How much fermented foods does a person need to eat to be healthy
Well,
here?
Well, hopefully it's so she's asking how much fermented foods we need to eat to be healthy. Well, I think it's whatever you can add to your diet. I think the most important thing is the plant foods, the fruits and vegetables. If you can add some fermented, that's like icing on the cake, I think. So I don't know that there's a number.
Yeah,
Where's
it's 30
potatoes?
number. I mean, I'm looking at that, in a 7-day period, that's 4 helpings or servings per day, roughly plus or minus 1, or like a place to start.
So wherever you start, we just build from there. But remember, the 30 is to have diversity. So 30 different plant foods over the course of a week. Yeah. And that 30 came from a study that was done by Dr. B.
Where do potatoes fall in this?
Those are plant food. Those are
I
great
know.
starch. Yeah. Potatoes are good.
Okay,
Yeah, I know they get a bad name, but potatoes can be fine.
baked over French fries.
Well, okay, you're right. It's what we do to them and what we smother them with. That's the issue. You are right. That's a good one. Okay. So today I made a salad. Did anybody, how was the salad? Did you like that dressing?
Yeah.
You did? I think I don't like a creamy dressing as much, but I mean, I liked it. So I made this for Easter too. So it was just spinach and greens. I just got the box of both. Then I cut up some red cabbage. You could use green too. Someone mentioned that, you should really make your recipes easier. And, I appreciate that feedback. So you could do whatever you want. Just think of any recipe as kind of a template. So use whatever greens you like, use whatever cabbage you like. If you happen to have some laying around, and if you don't, that's fine. I got the watermelon radish because I thought it was so beautiful. So yeah, I love these. This one called for green beans. It didn't say to cook them, but I felt like they needed to cook a little bit. So I just put them in the microwave for a few minutes or for actually a minute and a half. But you could use any leftover veggie you have from whatever you had for dinner last night. Avocado on it, some basil leaves. It called for pistachios, which I didn't have. So we used what we determined were sunflower seeds here. But that vinaigrette was interesting. I seem to have cut it all off, but it was, did I add any more to it? No, I didn't. So it had tahini in it instead of oil. Tahini's sesame seed paste. And then it called for lemon and some red wine vinegar. But it called for jam, like fruit spread. And it called for strawberry rhubarb fruit spread, which I could not find. So I just used strawberry spread. And then you just kind of blend it all up.
The source must have been from the Midwest.
Maybe. You're right. That does sound like a Midwest thing.
What made it creamy?
The tahini.
Oh.
The tahini.
Okay.
Yeah. I realized when I ate it that it tasted good. I like that vinaigrette okay, but I prefer a non-creamy dressing myself. But so I would just use, so again, you don't want to make all this up, use your balsamic vinegar or whatever you've got in the house. So the bottom line, we want a healthy gut microbiome. It's going to help our health. It's going to help our immune system, and maybe it'll even help your mood. Because remember, there's this vagus nerve that goes from your gut up to your brain. So sometimes moodiness can be related to your gut microbiome. And plant diversity is the key. So feed good food to your gut. Fiber is code for good food. Eat a wide variety. Remember those F goals. Instead of just one superfood, have a bunch of other foods. Less animal foods, less fats. Only use antibiotics when they're absolutely necessary. Get a pet and get dirty. That is the answer for our gut. So I think that's all we've got. Okay, so thank you. Any other questions? You had really good questions. Thank you, Paul.
Maybe we should actually back and kind of, so say you go off. For whatever reason, you have the runs,
Uh-huh.
so apparently something is wrong with your gut. So I went online and there's something about rat, have banana.
Rat diet for if you have diarrhea.
Is that how you repeat it? Is that how you get that?
Yeah, so the question is if you're having trouble, some stomach problems, and maybe you're having diarrhea, they recommend, just like they did when we were infants, the brat diet. So bananas, rice, applesauce, and toast. Yeah, so, hey, nice one. So Linda's eating a banana just to demonstrate what that might look like. But yeah, that's usually what's recommended, is kind of a lower fiber diet for a day or two.
Is that usually because of?
It's to take it easy on your gut. It's to take it easy on your gut, so your gut doesn't have to work that hard.
Where do you find tahini?
Tahini,
In the grocery store?
yeah, it's at all the stores now, and I have trouble finding which section. Is it in what section?
What with the honey and stuff?
Well,
Like peanut butter and honey in there?
in the co-op, it's with the other nut butters and between the
Favorite they
oils and the jams.
Mm-hmm.
Where?
So the tahini at the co-op, and I think it is at the stores I go to too. It's in the peanut butter, nut butter section.
Don't get the squeeze bottle.
I was just going to mention about the squeeze bottle. You don't like the squeeze bottle?
Hate the squeeze.
Why?
Because you lose 3 ounces of stuff because you can't get it out. It laminates to the sides.
Oh,
If it's a glass jar, you can put your scraper in,
true.
scoop it out clean.
Okay, so John brings up a good point, and actually, I was just going to say, oh, that squeeze bottle looks so great. So he's saying no, because you waste a lot. Okay, so thanks for that feedback, because I was going to get one next time I needed tahini,
Get the jar and get the cheap jar.
the cheap jar.
Yeah,
Okay, I usually do.
yeah.
You know how cheap I am.
Sometimes it's in the international section too, like with the Asian foods.
Okay,
Okay.
because it's often in Middle East food, right?
Yeah. Well, it's really good.
Will you talk about supplements at all?
I didn't talk about supplements. Well, we talked about not doing the fruit and vegetable gummies. We did talk about that.
And that's the same thing, right? And what about the
Yeah.
yogurt, the probiotic yogurt.
It's in yogurts.
Yeah, so yogurt it's considered a prebiotic because it's got the bacteria in it, if you have live cultures.
I'm shocked at how much yogurt is in this grocery store. Yeah, there's a whole aisle.
It's overwhelming
Yeah.
the diversity in our yogurts. You are right.
And it's some is live.
Some's
birth,
live,
Some processed
yes.
total death, so, but lots of sugar.
Yeah, you want to be careful if you are choosing yogurts to not have added sugar. Plain is better. You know, I was in a study in college at UC Davis, the yogurt study, and we had to have plain yogurt every single day. Oh,
And what did they
You
learn?
couldn't doc-
I don't even know what they learned. You could doctor it. You could doctor it, which I did. Yeah, so cinnamon would be good to add to that. You're right. And if you're a whole food plant-based, you can still get the yogurts. You can just get the soy-based or coconut milk-based or almond milk-based ones.
You could make a yogurt dressing.
You could make a yogurt-based dressing. This one kind of feels like that too. Yeah, you're right.
To make
yogurt
sure
base.
that it's live culture yogurt,
True.
because that's the point of yogurt.
Yeah, the point of the yogurt is to have the live cultures. You're right.
And does it say on the label live culture?
Yeah.
Yes, it
It
does.
says live lactobacillus and acidophilus.
Yeah. And you know what? Thank you for bringing that up because Dr. B would tell you the opposite of what I learned when I was in school. I guess it's changed now, the science. But if you go on an antibiotic regimen for whatever reason, usually they'll tell you to take some probiotics with that, like a lactobacillus or something to help restore your gut health. But I guess the newer studies are showing that your gut will return to normal quicker if you don't do that. I don't know why. I don't know why, but he's not recommending that anymore. I always recommended that. Okay.
What about taking those over the counter probiotic pills? Like,
Yeah, you know, you could take those probiotic over the counter ones, but there should really be no reason to if we're eating a plant-based diet. But I guess if we're not, and actually even Dr. B, I've heard him say, for some people, if their gut is so messed up, that he will recommend it for a short period of time.
And there's a woman that's not here right now with IBS.
Mhm.
Is that, how does that fit into this?
IBS often is because of an imbalance, a dysbiosis in your gut. And so just trying to eat more plants, more and more plants and fiber. Okay, in 2 weeks, John and I are gonna go to Club Med. We're doing our cooking demo will be on Mediterranean foods.
That's different than Club Med.
It's,
Really
it's
different.
way different.
Yeah,
You know,
that's not what they eat at Club Med. The Club Med do not eat the Mediterranean diet, I'm sure.
No, I don't think they do.
collard greens with it.
I'll bring some collard greens. Yes, I will. I tried anything I make now. It has to be from collard greens. Okay, thank you. Thanks to those out there. Thanks to everybody coming. If there's more salad, eat it because I still have leftover from Easter. So